Oh, yeah, there we go. And welcome everybody. It's May 9th or May 10th, 2022. And this is Jim and Jory with our open-hearted practice group. It's the last class in a series that we started in October. So today we finish the 28th skill of the Pathways to Liberation Matrix of Self-Assessment. And it's been a long and interesting journey. And I'm looking forward to sharing this last skill with you today. And then at the end of the call, we'll share with you what our future plans are. Excited about that as well. And I feel so much better now than I did this morning. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, which is, I think, an an American idiom, which just means kind of some things happened and I was in a bad mood. And then Jory gave me a nice hug and a little bit of empathy, and I got a warm note from a dear friend who is my NVC mentor, and that started lightening my mood a little bit, and then I had a chance to celebrate a pod meeting, a practice group, with a bunch of Japanese practitioners who were hopefully going to become certified trainers someday. And by the time that was all over, I was back to my old self again. So I'm grateful to be with you. How are you, Jory?
Wow, I was just shocked to realize that it was time for this class, or this group. I've been an ever ready bunny all day, and it feels like it went by so quickly. I couldn't believe it was that we got to this time of the day. So I'm just adjusting to the shared reality. Here I am, and glad you're here too.
And I noticed some people are here maybe for the first time, and I'm really want to extend a warm welcome to you, especially, and just share with you a little bit about how we hold these sessions. We consider them practice groups. So the idea is to really get a chance to practice these skills of nonviolent communication. So it's not like an empathy group or a kind of a deepening group. These are other kinds of NVC groups that happen. Very, very valuable. And I'm really glad other trainers are doing that. We like to kind of stay at more of a teaching level. And when we invite you to practice, we invite people to stay at low intensities just to kind of get used to using these skills. And so that's how we do it. And the three main modes of nonviolent communication that we work with are self-connection, using nonviolent communication just with yourself. And sometimes it's called self-empathy or self-compassion. And then we also will create small groups for those who want to participate in small groups, where you get a chance to practice the other two modes of NVC, honesty, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm just speaking, the speaking part of nonviolent communication. And you guys are already practicing empathy, which is the listening part of NVC. We'll give you a chance to do that in small groups 3 or 4 times a day, depending on how the time goes, as we dive into our class on supporting holistic systems.
And I really want to celebrate what I just read in the chat. Look at that. From Anne in Rwanda. I would like to share that I ordered a pile of your books that I want to share with our practice group here in South Rwanda. So grateful for the recordings. Thank you so much. I'm so touched to read that. It's about mission. I mean, he did the writing, and I'm really proud of him for doing the writing, but it's also a gift to me that he did this, and hopefully a gift to everyone to be able to share this consciousness. We often think of nonviolent communication as skills, and we certainly teach it as skills, but it's really a consciousness. And so I'm thrilled that it gets to be shared out in the world. And Jim, you want to do the self-connection exercise?
Yes, I do. And I'm really glad to see other people arriving. So happy that you're all joining us. We'll do a brief self-connection exercise now. And then Jory will be making small groups while we do that.
And again, if you do not want to be in a breakout room, put the equal sign before your name next to the red, um, little red dot in the bottom left of your screen. You just click on your name and put an equal sign in front of it. And that'll support you in not being in a breakout room and support other people as well, not to have someone who doesn't show up.
And if you don't know how to do that, you can just send a chat and maybe we'll catch it and can do it for you. So for this self-connection exercise, a simple and brief one today. So we maximize our time to practice. And you're already doing it. So just notice what you're doing. You're looking around. You might be looking at the screen, looking at me, or maybe you're looking at something else, like maybe you're picking up a cup of tea or something like that, but your eyes are already moving around. And so just relax for a moment. Relax your willpower. And just let your eyes go where they want to go. Let them drive for a change. Just let your eyes wander. And as you wander, I'll just say a little bit about it, that this is calling to mind two fundamental skills of nonviolent communication: presence. It's getting really present to the environment that you're in, noticing what you see. Also, the skill of observing. Noticing that you don't have to try to be present. You don't have to try to observe, that it's your natural state. And just let your head accompany your eyes. So you can relax your neck and just look around. This has for most people, it has a profound emotional effect. Just to look around like this, it tends to create a sense of bravery. That you see that you're in a place where there's no threats, where you can just arrive fully. No saber-toothed tigers. If there are saber-toothed tigers, then get the hell out of there and find a safe place. If you see something that's scary or truly a threat, then please leave and take care of yourself. And then allow your eyes to rest on something that you really enjoy looking at. And notice your breathing as you do that, as you just settle in and enjoy. And just connect. Why do you enjoy that? What is it about that? What need of yours is satisfied by that object? And if you can name the need, just name it for yourself. And then let the name go and just savor the energy of that need. And while holding that self-awareness, come back to the screen if you like, and look at us. Look at who we are. We've gathered to 45 people at the moment from all around the world. I see India, Canada, Rwanda, United States, Singapore, Japan.
And that also means several people arrived since I started making the breakout groups when the self-connection exercise started. So you won't go immediately into a group. And I have a question for Anne from Rwanda. Do you want to be in a group? I can't tell by the symbol you put in front of your name. Anne?
I have a guess about that symbol. I think it's just like a.
Oh, there she is. You want to be in a breakout room? Okay, I see her head shaking yes.
So before we go to the breakout room, I want to give you a stimulus to think about in the breakout room. Because our topic today is supporting holistic systems. And I want to give you a quote from Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication, to think about and respond to in your small groups. And I'll read it out loud twice, and then by then Joy will have the groups open and you can just talk about this. Unless we as social change agents come from a certain spirituality, we're likely to create more harm than good. Unless we as social change agents come from a certain spirituality, we are likely to create more harm than good. So what do you think Marshall's talking about here? What do you imagine he is advising us in terms of a certain spirituality? There's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just what comes alive in you as you consider a kind of spirituality that would be less harmful. And with that, we're ready to go to small groups. And we'll see you back here. Joy, set the timer for 10 minutes, please.
Oh, thanks. I almost missed that.
And when the groups are over, you don't have to do anything. You'll have 1 extra minute. You'll get a little message that says 1 minute left. You can just relax. If you're done, you can come back. But you don't have to push any buttons or anything. And we'll see you back here in 10 minutes.
Okay, and again, it'll take a while to put the rest of you in there. And Jim, if you'll stop sharing, great. Perfect. Good idea, sweetie.
So that certain kind of spirituality, love for you to put your ideas about that in the chat. If there's anything that anybody wants to share in the chat, we'll be exploring, the whole rest of the class will be about exploring that certain kind of spirituality. So if you didn't come up with an answer yet, you're exactly where you belong. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, from my side, the spirituality part was like that selfless service. That's more of a kind of a, well, from Amma, but I think in MBC it's more like, and in Buddhism, not being attached to the outcome. I seem to always be working on that, like do what you do, and things will go the way. You're not in control of everything, not to be attached to the outcome. So
yeah,
that was my reflection.
Thanks, Rob. Anybody else want to share anything out loud? I see.
Or in the chat if you like.
I see inclusive written in the chat. Go ahead, Rena.
Yeah, I in India, it's such a stimulating life. For me, I step out and connect with people from all walks of life, and before NVC, I would kind of get tired or start fixing or advising. And I notice now that, deep listening itself is a big element of social change. And this reminder that I'm likely to cause more harm, brings a bit of tenderness in me as as a human, where I might lose it, and in my heart also, or mind also, I have judgments. So it's like a reminder, and yet a support, you know, to keep balancing self-care with empathy and honest expression. Yeah, thank you for this.
Thanks, Rena. Eric?
Yeah, for me and another member of my group, this quote seemed kind of to raise a lot of red flags. So we were finding. I mean, it kind of doesn't sound like it comes from Marshall Rosenberg. The little that I know of him, at least, and I just, it made us ask questions like, well, whose certain spirituality is this, and who's defining it, and and that just set off alarm bells to us. Maybe we were just a little too paranoid or something. But one of my mates said, when I hear somebody like that, you either get ready to defend yourself or run. So
Yeah.
So I'm interested in what you think about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate your raising the caution there, because we often have spirituality linked with a domination system, and so forth. And so I think that would be the opposite of what Marshall was aiming for. If you really want to dive into some of his ideas on spirituality, stick with this class for one thing. And then he has a book called Practical Spirituality, very small book that goes into some depth about it, along with his book, The Heart of Social Change, which will be the source of what we'll be working with today. Sarah Joy, and then we'll finish with Siva before we launch into the substance of the class.
Thank you, Jim. I think for me, spirituality has many meanings. And just in terms of this class, I think what I think about that's important is the opposite to me would be materiality, where there's, everything has a value, and maybe adults over 65 are not valued anymore, or children don't have any power in their world, or there's all the isms, sexism, ageism, all that. And spirituality might be a different way to see the world, with more of a sense of abundance and fairness and inclusion, kindness, equality, and care. That was my mindfulness bell. I set it to keep me present every hour, to do something, to look out the window or see, beautiful clouds or flowers, or do some exercise to stay awake.
Thank you. And that might be part of that certain kind of spirituality that Marshall's pointing to, is presence, just becoming mindfully present to what is. Siva, and then we'll finish with Rasha.
Before class today, I wanted to prepare myself. So I looked in your book, I looked at all these books at the end and read very carefully the summaries. And it blew my mind, because it's really all about the same thing. It is all about spirituality. But here's what I agree with everybody who spoke already. But what nobody, I didn't hear any point out. My direction is always from, how can we raise children so that they stay connected to their emerging knowledge of themselves, and they stay confident and whole, and not be drawn by materialism or power over, but they retain that anchor of who they are as they emerge to being more and more who they are.
That would be the hallmark of a life-serving educational system, something that really supports all of us, including children, in having that quality of self-connection, self-trust, self-awareness to move with confidence through the world. Thanks, Siva.
Right, you said the word
And
trust. That's really important.
Yeah, and it's really a mission that is unfolding. Thank you for bringing that forth.
Yeah.
And Rasha?
Yes, I always find people confused between spirituality and faith because they link it to a certain religious. So I am Christian, but I am into Sufism. So sometimes my friends would be like, do you know that Sufism comes from Islam? I would say, why? So what? Whatever. They have a beautiful teachings and they live spiritually. I don't like labeling God or the divining power or any name that is named because of a religious. I believe in divining power. I'm spiritual, but I don't like to link it to any religious. I often been accused of being the non-believer, but I like it this way. I like to be good to people. I like to have empathy for others. I like to be true to myself. And I think this is spirituality. Bringing all the good teachings from everywhere is the spirituality. This is my concept of spirituality. Thank you.
Thank you, Rasha. Yeah. So let's explore it and find out what else we can learn. I really appreciate your sharing so far. We're going to be guiding you through some questions to ask to help you discover your own answer to this question in a more deep way. And first, let's do what we usually do at the beginning of these sessions and talk about it as a skill. The skill is called supporting holistic systems. And we define it as consciously participating in the creation and evolution of holistic systems that foster general well-being. So what do we mean by a system? A system is something that has interlocking parts. So within you, there's a system. There's a system of your whole body. You've got a heart, you've got a brain, and a nervous system, and muscles, and all that is a system which can be further subdivided into other systems like the digestive system and so forth. And at the interpersonal level, every time you're in relationship with somebody, you're creating a system. So Jory and I have a relationship system. We've been married for over 40 years. In fact, our anniversary is coming up in just about 11 days. And I'd have to do the math. What is it? 43rd anniversary, which is pretty remarkable. And so that's a system. And another example of a system would be something like a system that's in the world, like at the largest level, it's an ecosystem, the system of the interconnection of all living things. So that's what we mean by system. And a holistic refers to a system that addresses things as a part of a whole. So even though I'm just had this one body, and that's a holistic system, I'm also part of this relationship with Jory. That's another system. And together we have a holistic system of she has a body, I have a body, and we have our relationship. And then together we're in a family system with our daughter and our son. And Jory's got sisters. My brother's already gone. We used to have parents. Our parents are gone now. but we have cousins and uncles and aunts and so forth. That's all part of our family system. And then there's also an informal family system, right? We all have friends and colleagues and so forth. And so and all those, you can keep building these systems in different little, they're called holons. They're like little whole pieces that are become part of bigger whole pieces, like Russian dolls.
Are you complete, Jim? I saw you cough. No, go ahead. Yeah, I can't hear you. You are muted at this moment, Jim.
Thank you. So, like all skills, we enter understanding this particular skill without any skill. Some of you might have a lot of skill working with holistic systems. For some of you, this might be the very first time. And as we go through a pathway to deepen our understanding of any of these skills, it's a pretty predictable walk. We start being unskilled. We don't know what the skill is. We don't even know that we don't know about it. And that's perfectly fine. That's where we start every single skill. And at some point, we become aware of the skill. And sometimes it's scary. It's scary to become aware of a skill that we didn't know we had. And we might start beating ourselves up for not knowing it, or we might rebel against it, or something like that. But then with practice, with any kind of skill, even like tennis or playing the piano or whatever, eventually, if you really focus on the skill, you get quite capable. And eventually, the skill integrates. It becomes part of your identity. It becomes part of your consciousness. And we call that unconscious competence. And so to explore that today, we're going to look at 4 different elements of this of building a holistic system. And Jory is going to start with the first part here, celebration.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity right now for you to pick a system that you would like to work with. Maybe it's within yourself. Maybe it's in a relationship that matters, or it can be in systems like healthcare, governance, NGOs, education, justice, organizing, healthcare, peace work. Lots of different areas. Just pick an area in your own life, a system that you're involved with. And then write down the specific system you'd like to explore. And you can put it in the chat if you'd like. It'll take a couple minutes for you to get clear on that for yourself. I see some people putting it in the chat. I'm seeing some things, an NGO working closely with community for healthcare and education, dances of universal peace, peace work for nonviolent change, abortion, abolition of arms and violence, NGOs, humanitarian work. Can be your family, a group of friends, neighbors. We'll take another minute for those who are still writing and exploring. Mediation, relationships that use nonviolent communication, support NVC action and communication in the world. Internal, non-punitive environment, external relationship to my household in a non-violent way. And Jim, if you'll review the breakout rooms, make sure we have 3 in each.
Oh, I won't see them until you reopen them again.
Oh, okay.
So while you look at that, I can give them the question to talk about.
Okay, great. I'll make sure it's ready to go.
So what you're going to talk about in your small groups, which may be the same or they may be different, is what's working about the current state of this system. I put it into the chat. What's working? So we start with celebration. This is an integral part, a very important part of that certain kind of spirituality, is we have a focus, not an only focus, not an exclusive focus, but we have a focus on gratitude, what's working, on celebration. So that's the first thing, is to do a round. Everybody will have a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, to share what's working about the current state of this system. And so when you're speaking, just speak from the heart. That part of the meeting is not recorded, so it's completely private. You can just share whatever you want to about what's working about the system. Keep your focus just on celebrations. And when you're listening, listen for observations. In other words, attune your consciousness to listen for what the other person is reporting that they're likely to have seen or heard with their own eyes or ears. They might be talking about other things too, but just for practice, attune yourself to observations. And then Jory, set the timer again for 10 minutes. I think it's already set, and off we go.
Actually, I set it just, Jim, this time for 15, 5 minutes each. Did you have a different idea about that?
I think we better keep it at 10, otherwise we won't have time for
okay.
all of them.
Great. Okay. No problem. And you'll mostly be in the same groups, but I saw there was a group of 4 and I made it a 3. And if you have arrived and weren't in a group before, you'll find yourself being put in one.
What's our assignment again, please?
Yeah, to talk about what's working about the current state of the system. Corey doesn't think 10 minutes is enough, so let's make it 12. We'll compromise, even though compromise is not a part of NVC. We'll split the baby here.
Okay, so that means there'll be 4 minutes for each person to be able to share, and you can choose a timekeeper that helps to make sure the other people have time. Alrighty, and I'll open up the rooms. See you in a bit. You can go ahead and take it from here because I'll work with getting the group back together.
Okay, so notice how you feel right now after celebrating for 12 minutes. What's it like to be in the presence of a field of celebration? Go to your own body and notice how your heart feels. Notice how you're breathing. And just whatever you're feeling, even if you're not feeling grateful or open or anything, just give yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. Because there's no such thing as a right feeling or a wrong feeling. There's just a feeling. So by starting with celebration and gratitude, we open up the door for deeper exploration. But before we do that, I'd just like to hear from one or two people about what it was like for you to celebrate, about how the things that are working well in your system. So I see Kong wrote in the chat, I think it's the joy of I'm exactly where I need to be, not in the place where I think I should be, but exactly where I need to be. And even more present, Rosh is enjoying the sounds of birds through my speaker, my microphone. Me too. Part of an ecosystem that includes birds and bees and butterflies. Siva, what's it like for you to connect with gratitude about how systems are working?
I'm not exactly answering your question is why I'm struggling a little bit. It's just that the fact that you have created a support community is, it's like I can trust I've discovered the importance of having an empathy buddy, because every relationship is going to go well and not well. And if I didn't have an empathy buddy, I would do what I learned from Yoram's class, is just write with a pen on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. Just write. Yeah. So it's always available.
Yeah.
And to pile too much onto one relationship is to destroy that relationship.
Yeah. So by expanding your system, one of the celebrations I hear is by expanding your system, not only to empathy buddies and this class, and also through the written word, that you find more resources, you find more self-connection, you find more energy. Yeah. Thank you. And Maureen says in the chat, it sets a foundation for going into deeper areas. Anybody else want to reflect on the power of this quality of that certain kind of spirituality? I have time for one more, if anybody would like to share. Positivity, Janet says. Yes, it generates life-affirming emotions like joy, inspiration, gratitude, love, interest, pride of accomplishment, serenity. And Corey adds, celebrating is uplifting, energizing, and connecting. And we probably don't do enough of it. 12 minutes is not enough. 12 days would be great. Wouldn't it be great if we could just have a festival, a gratitude fest, and all get together and share where everything was related to sharing needs that are satisfied? That would give us the energy to do the social change work. Patricia, and then we'll move into the next step. Patricia?
Yes, Jim. Especially when you're asking us to explore supportive holistic systems, starting with what is exploring to me means looking in all the dark corners of the system. Because if it were a system that was working well, I don't think that I would care to explore it. But starting with celebration is a way of starting on the right foot.
Exactly. We provide our own light source so that we can look into the dark corners. I love that's a perfect segue, Patricia. I can almost always count on you to be my segue queen. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's
I love it.
unintentional.
Yeah. So the second, George, do you want to do the next piece or do you want me to keep going? Okay. So the next piece is to consider what's getting in the way of making this a life-serving system. So this is about actually making it okay to feel despair. It's actually the natural consequence of unsatisfied needs is to feel pain. And when we see it at the systemic level, it's natural to feel despair. And so we could wallow in our despair, and there's no movement when we wallow. You've probably seen or can imagine a pig wallowing in its pigsty. You know, the only movement is in the same place. Doesn't change. Nothing changes in a wallowing situation. But if we bring our light from the spirituality, we can uncover something in our despair. And it starts just by asking the question. Now we're again looking for observations. What's getting in the way of making this a life-serving system? So think about it for a minute. Maybe write yourself a note or two, and so I'll be quiet for 1 minute while you just share with yourself what's getting in the way of making this, whatever system you chose, a life-serving system. And I like what Rasha put in, because it's a great opportunity to go even deeper. She writes, the current practices in the system that are preventing me from connecting to my needs of dignity and respect, meaning connection. So I'm sure that Rasha knows what she means by the current practices, but I don't. So if I was going to come in and try to support her, I'd say, what specific current practices are you talking about? And invite her to say, well, it's the fact that blah, 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 blah. Whatever is the observable, the more you stick to that skill of observing, it will help pave your way. So Jory, whenever you're ready, you can open up the groups. For the second round, it'll also be 12 minutes long. This time, though, you're gonna those who are listening are gonna attune your consciousness in a slightly different way. You're gonna be listening for feelings and needs with silent empathy. So if I'm in Radha's group and she says, you know, I just can't stand the current practices in the system that are preventing me from connecting to my needs of dignity and respect, all I hear is dignity and respect and connection. Because that's where I'm focusing my attention, not on what she thinks, but on what she feels and what she needs. So that's what the invitation is for you, is to focus on the feelings and the needs of the speaker. Everybody has about 4 minutes again.
Okay. So I will open. All right. I think everybody's back here now. Yeah.
Raise your hand if you're not here.
Go ahead, Jim. You carry it from here, right?
Yeah. So what was this like? Check in with your body now. Now you were either expressing your pain or you were present for somebody else. What's that like in your body? And again, whatever you notice there, first you notice it. If it's pleasant, it means some needs have been met. If it's painful, it means that some needs are not met in the moment. Sometimes it's helpful just to name what your experience is, even if it's just that simple, pain or pleasure. And if you have other words to describe the feeling, you can use those. Sad, angry, happy, hurt, whatever it is. And try to connect the feeling to the need. Why do you feel that way? What's important to you? So who would like to share? Let's go to Rasha.
Okay, so when you mentioned that I need to give an observation to connect it with my feelings, I guess I knew what I'm talking about, but maybe I didn't express it well, or I didn't link it to the feelings. And if I may give an example, like the recent incident that really made me sad and angry is when Canada opened the door for the people from Ukraine. It was open unconditionally, and people were welcome without any systemic reviews or anything. Versus when people from Afghanistan needed to come to Canada, they were moved into camps with not a very good life conditions until they were reviewed and questioned and everything. And I was really frustrated, angry, sad. And that's why I said it was disconnecting me from my needs of dignity and respect and connection, because the humanitarian field is supposed to be about equal opportunities for everyone. Yeah. So I was instantly connecting how I felt to why and what is the need behind it for me. And yeah, I just wanted to share that. And now as I know it, yes, I'm helpless. I can't change it, but at least I'm acknowledging it.
Yeah. Thank you. That really helps me to know exactly what you're talking about. And it helps me feel more connected to you. And I actually have a bit of a sympathetic response as well as an empathetic response, because I see how I'm tasting, I think, the same flavor of pain that you might be feeling. I really long for the word that I use is equivalence. Equivalence, where everybody's needs have an equal value. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for raising your hand and letting me know. How do you feel hearing that?
Thank you for the opportunity of expressing it and acknowledging my feelings and needs for myself, at least. So
you're welcome.
I needed it. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're going to find out if you're really helpless in just a minute. We still got a whole half hour to go to discover if we're as helpless as we think we are. We might be, but we might not be. Siva, and then we'll do the next practice.
I took my hand down because I was going to just celebrate the feeling of connection.
Beautiful. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. That, you know, when we enter into despair work with 0 step, what's likely to happen is exactly what you experience, connection. And then what Sophia put into the chat, I talked about my relationship with my ex-partner and my family. There's loneliness and sadness. There's a sweet pain in my chest. When I look at the whole, the system is fractal, and I felt it expanding. I realized that because of the sadness I felt here and now, it brings me a perspective to see the whole in the here and now. Yeah, so when we stick with despair, it has a funny way of turning into sweet pain. And that's right underneath that sweet pain is gratitude. Right underneath mourning is gratitude. So now we take the third step, so to speak. It's not really a step. The third element of this certain kind of spirituality, which is visioning. I was just listening to Marshall talking just before this call started, and I think I'm just going to play it for you. It's only 1 minute long, and it'll open us. We'll carry on from. Oh, somehow it got closed. Let me go find it real quick. Here we go. All right, so this is just 1 minute of Marshall talking about desperation and vision. Oops, sorry. You can enjoy the birds while I get my act together here. Oops. Sorry. I want to make sure the sound is right. Okay, here we go.
Forces of
Two
change.
interrelated forces. One, our desperation. We're waking up to the fact that we're destroying the ecology and the planet itself, so that we can't continue to destroy the planet and still have survive. So we're desperate about that. And there's a growing body of people that are getting connected, who have a different vision. And they're starting to grow. Some research shows that people with this vision, about 20 years ago, there might have been 5%. Now this is rapidly growing. And I'm fortunate enough, as I travel around the world, I'm meeting these people in every country who have a different vision of what the good life is all about than the people who are contributing to the violence on the planet.
So if you want to, you can actually stand up for this exercise. I usually do stand up, because especially after sitting here for a little while. And if you can, look out a window. You don't have to, but if you can look out a window, that seems to help. And as you look out from wherever you stand, imagine that you can see a horizon. And that represents the future. And if you turn around and look behind you, you can see all the things in your past that have prepared you for this moment. Somewhere along the way, you connected with nonviolent communication, and one thing after another, you end up in this practice group today thinking about vision. And so you pull all that learning from behind you and just add it to your heart, and then look back at the horizon in front of you. And just imagine that there is, in relationship to the system that you chose, there is a way to make a dream come true related to that vision. You could ask yourself, what's the best thing that could happen in relationship to this vision? If the system were functioning absolutely in a life-affirming way, what would it look like? And make your vision as vivid as you can. Use your imagination. This is your chance to be a science fiction writer. You get to create the world that you really want to live in. What would it look like in relationship to this system? How would the system address your needs more holistically? How would the system address your relational needs? Your partners could be your life partners, your business partners, your social change partners, your empathy buddies, whatever it is. What would that look like to have a partnership system that was working fluidly, working in a way that reliably satisfied the needs that you're hoping to meet with this system? And again, be as vivid and as imaginative as you want. It's your brain. You get to remodel your vision, update it in any way that you like, and pull in more people. What are the human resources that would really help your vision to come true? What gifts would these other people bring to the system to add to the gifts that you're already bringing? What other resources do you need? Maybe you need some money. How much? Dream big. Want $1,000 for a local project? Want $10,000? $100,000? $1 million? All you're doing is adding nothing each time, just a zero. So dream big. What's your biggest dream for financial resources? What other resources? Money is only one resource. Human resources are another one. What other things do you need? Space, time, creativity, what is it? Bring all these things together and imagine that it's like planting a forest. And this thought right now is a seed that you're planting in your own vision. And just imagine what it would look like 1 year from now. What's the best thing that could happen as these resources start to come together to support your own holistic system? And then imagine 2 years down the road. You're learning, you're getting feedback, you're gathering more resources, more partners, more clarity. You're making mistakes and learning from your mistakes. And imagine 2 years from now how it might look if things were starting to become even more reliably connected to strategies that meet needs. And then think about 5 years down the road. What's the world look like in 5 years as you start gaining momentum towards your own holistic system building project? What would it look like in 5 years? Make it 10. It's like a snowball. Once the energy starts going, it gets bigger and bigger. It attracts more and more resources. And it has more and more learning built into the system, more and more feedback. And double it again, 20 years. Even if you don't think you'll be here in 20 years, the seed, the forest will remain. What's the best thing that could happen in 20 years? Then make it 50. 50 years is not even an eye blink in human history. And yet 50 years can make a big difference. What are the positive impacts of your dream on your relationships and on the planet? How is your project supporting well-being for all life? 100 years. Uh, 500 years. We're in Star Trek country now. The 27th century. What's it like to be in the world of your wildest dreams, your wildest vision? And then just reach out and grab this dream. The energy of that dream is full of needs. It's full of needs and love, your love, and just bring it into your heart. And when you're ready, you can sit back down. And we just move right straight from the vision to the final step of this different kind of spirituality, which is action, the request part of NVC. You are a social change agent. You can start building this culture. So what's one tiny step that you could take today? What's one baby giraffe step that you could take today? And write that down. Be as concrete and specific as possible. Follow the energy of the needs to concrete actions. So that if somebody was watching what you're doing, they would be able to describe it like an observation. Your strategies are someone else's observation. What do they see? What do they hear? If the newspaper was writing a report about your steps, what would it say? And if you want to write down your first step or your second step or your however many you got in the chat, that would be great. They can be teeny tiny steps. Like my next step is after this call is I will take a little break. I'm going to do some self-care, and then I'm going to come back to my computer and I'm going to process the video and upload it to YouTube, because you guys are all part of my holistic system that I'm building. I want to support your learning. It's so meaningful for me to hear from Anne that her practice group in Rwanda listens to these videos. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. And thank you for doing that. I had no idea. I'm very touched to know that. YouTube told me this week that our videos have been downloaded 3,000 times. That's a small but meaningful drop in the ocean. That's a new milestone. So what is your next step? And love to hear a few people share your next step. Jory, have you got one that you'd be willing to share?
My next step is to begin to coordinate some of the things on the international intensive training that we're going to do shortly. And coordinate the home groups and review the schedule, things like that.
You're muted, Jim.
Thank you. Rasha says, I request from myself to keep believing in humanity, continue the path I started in passion long term. I will do the required reading I have for my classes tomorrow with happiness. I choose to instead of have to. Right on. So much for helpless. There's a step. I love it. Anne says, I will write an email to my colleagues at the Institute and share how important it is to me that we connect to those, and if only silent, who are doing things that are painful to us, political and economic leaders, especially military, and that I celebrate that we started. And Sarah Joy, contribute to HIAS World Immigration Support. Kong says, I will have dinner with my extended family and ask about their worries instead of pulling away. Aw. Thank you, Kong. If you want to increase the likelihood of your dream coming true, write your next step in the chat or say it out loud. It's called the power of community to support social change. I request myself to keep being creative, to connect with my team, and continue to believe in the no right, wrong thinking for our parent-child family system. I do not have the exact step yet, but I know it will appear. Maybe I will bake or watch TV with him. Lovely. Write a letter
Ruth
to our...
Ruth says that. Ruth says, write a letter to our school.
Tanya's next step is to put a link in for all of us. Thanks, Tanya. Archana is making a... Go ahead, Jory.
No, go ahead.
Archana is making like an agreement with herself. I will pause before reacting. And Maureen says, I'll say a prayer for guidance about how to help the connection in my family that I belong to. Zohar says, I'll remind myself that I am loved. So notice that, again, it's a great summary of our class in that These systems can be the system that we're building in ourselves. That's how Marshall started every international intensive training with the first day, was building a life-serving system in yourself. It starts there. That is the beginning of social change. That we start embodying this certain kind of spirituality. And then we extend it out to our relationships with empathy and honesty, by staying grounded in self-connection. And then naturally, our social influence will increase.
Mhm. And I see Beth and Don, I'm not sure which one wrote that. Keep a gratitude journal. And for Frankie, I'll share this wonderful exercise with my MVC fellowship and collaborate with them to build our mission strategy. Beautiful. And they're all beautiful. And then Juan, I will go to sleep right after class to have self-care. You go, girl.
And I hope you have wonderful dreams. And then
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
yes. And Purva, I will walk the path of getting fitter and healthier so that I can live NVC for a long time. That shares some of my mission of what I want you to do. And then Sofa, whoops, just went up fast. They're coming quicker. Similarly inspired by the practice to do the same, Frankie. And for Purva, I will walk the path of getting, oh no, we did that one already. And then Quang, +1 to Frankie. I'll put on my to-do list to go back and save the recording from today. The visioning exercise opened up so much for me. Thank you, Jim. And Kevin and Don say, group pretzel hug. And Jim, you have a reminder?
I do. And I'm catching gratitude from Ruth. I'm full of gratitude and want to acknowledge part of the inspiration for that exercise, of course, was Marshall Rosenberg in nonviolent communication, but also another teacher of mine and Jory's many, many years ago, a man named Robert Dilts. He was the source of that Horizon exercise that I have gladly appropriated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Go ahead.
yeah,
I was going to do another one in the chat. A says, I pledge to love myself. I aim to raise over 200,000 for 2 years for my creative coping.
wonderful.
You go, girl. Or guy, I don't even know who that is, actually.
Speaking of raising, I have a celebration for you. You know, we've been doing this class now for a couple of years on a donation basis, compassionate giving and receiving. And we kind of just keep the money aside in a certain account. And then when the need arises, we have it to give. And I wanted to celebrate 3 gifts that we, actually it's 4 gifts that we authorized, I think since last time we talked to you. Maybe I told you about this one last week, but Olga Ingyen, a certified trainer living in the UK who's half Russian and half Vietnamese, is supporting some candidates in Russia to become certified trainers. And because of your generosity, we were able to forward about $1,300 US for scholarships for her students. In addition, last week, Jory and I attended a class on NVC Academy, which was, we put the link in our newsletter or our little mailing this week about the 3 Ukrainian certified trainers. They've now lost their home. They've lost their lives. their normal lives. They're all three alive still, thank goodness. And but now they're living in other countries other than their home country, Ukraine. And because of your generosity, we were able to send them on your behalf and acknowledging you that you gave them each $1,000. And I thought when I gave them this money that I would get a gratitude letter back and say, thank you. Now we're able to afford our groceries or whatever it was, you know. I really thought it was going to be going to their basic needs. But every single one of them wrote back to me and told me how they were taking your gift and giving it to people they know who need it even worse than they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really special for me to share with you. So if you would like to keep that flow of compassionate giving and receiving going, our number one request is that just give money to the Center for Nonviolent Communication and make a gift to them to fulfill Marshall's dream. I'll put the link in the chat. And if you're a U.S. citizen, that means this could be tax deductible for you because CNVC is a nonprofit organization. If you want to play the game with us, you can give us the money here. I wonder if that link would work. Would you test that link, Jory, and make sure it's still working? Because we have some with our webpage. But you can always PayPal us money at Radical Compassion.
Yes, Jim, it's still active.
Okay. That's our email address. You can PayPal money there, or you can write to us with requests. And so we then periodically will let you know how that money is being utilized to meet needs. Thirdly, or fourthly, wherever we are in my number system, I did write a book a year ago. This is another fundraiser. That link there will take you to lots of online bookstores where you can get it in your country, probably with free shipping. The preference is that you first call the library in your town and say, I'd like to get this book. And they say, well, we don't have it. And then you can say, would you please order it? And they will, probably. They'll put it on their list and they'll order it. And then they'll let you know when it comes in. Secondly, you can go to your local mom and pop bookstore and say you'd like to get this book. They know how to order it because you can order it just like any other book that is done by a big publisher like Puddle Dancer, which is the same outfit that published Marshall's book. Next week, we will continue our studies, even though we're done with the 28 skills. We're never done. And so next week we will play with self-assessment. We did this at the very beginning of the classes 30 weeks ago now. And so some of you were here and did that self-assessment. We'll do it again this time and you'll get a chance to see how far you've come in the last 30 weeks or so. If you haven't done it before, it'll be your first time and you'll get a chance to enjoy what it's like to celebrate the skills that you've been accumulating along the way from your life, whether it's NVC skills or other skills.
And it also helps give you some guidance in where you want to put your attention in your own learning. So it's information for you in terms of your path of growth. I see some more things coming up in the chat. They asked Jim, would you put the 2 book titles by Marshall Rosenberg that you mentioned at the beginning of the class into the chat? Do you have that handy? And Ellen asks if we'll be doing the cycle again. We're going to move into a couple of other directions, and then probably, I don't know if it'll be in 2 or 3 weeks, just sort of to break the pattern a little bit. That's at least what we're thinking about now. We'll make it more clear when our email goes out, when we make our final decision, whether we're just going to start from the beginning again or carry on after next week.
Yeah, we've got a kind of a plan. and I sent it to our webmaster. And so she's programming the Pathways to Liberation.com website to keep us abreast of these plans. I thought I had them written down here, but I'm not finding them. But we'll let you know next week. Next week, we're going to do the self-assessment. It'll be a blast. I mean, it's so much fun to do this, the way that Jory and I have figured out how to do self-assessment. It's not like a test at all. It's like it's really a lot of fun. And you'll walk away from class next week with an action step, an action plan, similar to what you did today with social change. And next week, you'll walk away with an action step or 2 or 3 for your own continued integration of nonviolent communication. So coming down to the wire here today, you can stay. We always have a little after party. So, if you can imagine, we're all hanging out at Jim and Jory's house in Maui. The practice group's over, but everybody doesn't disappear like you do on Zoom. Poof, you're gone. If you were here at our house, you would linger for a while and you would connect with people. And so we invite you to linger and connect with people. Maybe the same people that you were in small groups with, maybe other people that you haven't yet met, and just share some of what you learned today. Share a little bit about what's going on in your life. It's the most important part of the practice, is now you're taking it from the practice group into real life. So you take the same consciousness with you and enjoy hanging out. Last week, people were still here about an hour later. I've seen people stay for 2 hours. So I've seen some people stay for 5 minutes, whatever works for you. No requirement, but a wonderful gift that you can give to yourself.
Yeah, and I'll stay here for a few minutes and put people in different groups. If your group partners have already left or are leaving now, so you won't find yourself alone for too long, if at all. But mostly we'll keep it together if your partners are still here, unless I see any requests, which you're welcome to do in the chat.
So let's all just say goodbye. Let's celebrate the end of this series with a big unmuted cacophony of celebration. So please unmute yourself and say aloha.
Yay!
Aloha.
Yay!
Yay.